Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Andres Kluski. I'm the chairman of the Council of the Americas, and it's an honor to welcome you this morning as we commemorate our 60th anniversary, a milestone that speaks of our enduring mission, which is to foster a thriving business environment across the Americas and to stand firmly in support of democratic values. For 6 decades, this council has brought together leaders from government, business, and civil society, always with the conviction that prosperity, openness, and liberty go hand in hand. Today, we gather not only to celebrate that legacy, but to look ahead to what may be one of the most consequential economic and political opportunities of our time. As Venezuela prepares for a new chapter, a team of committed leaders led by María Corina Machado, has outlined a $1.6 trillion value creation strategy to rebuild the country's economy, institutions, and global standing. This is a serious, structured vision grounded in legal reforms, energy transition, infrastructure, and the reestablishment of trust, both among Venezuelans and with international partners. This transition will not be simple, but the foundations for a democratic and open Venezuela are being laid now. And for you in this room, investors, strategists, and partners in this transformation, you have a chance to be part of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will reshape the region. The Council of the Americas was created for moments like this, when values and opportunities align. Now I'd like to share a short video with you.
The return of democracy to Venezuela will open one of the most extraordinary investment opportunities in the emerging world, across sectors, across borders, and with global scale. Venezuela is uniquely positioned for economic boom. Just 1,200 nautical miles from the United States, with direct access to the Panama Canal and Europe, Venezuela serves as a strategic natural bridge between South America, the Caribbean, and the world. And with the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, Venezuela is not just rich in resources, it's rich in potential. Its infrastructure once powered one of Latin America's most advanced economies. Now, after years of collapse, millions of Venezuelans, driven by hope, are demanding democratic change. What lies ahead is an extraordinary opportunity, a nation rich in assets, backed by a talented diaspora of over 8 million skilled, resilient people, and the potential to triple its GDP in just over a decade. Venezuela offers rare cost advantages, ultra-low oil lifting costs, existing refining capacity, vast natural gas reserves, and untapped mining potential. With the longest Caribbean coastline, stretching 2,800 kilometers, Venezuela is home to UNESCO-listed natural parks and a year-round tropical climate ideal for tourism. Its fertile, abundant agricultural land also offers untapped potential to feed regional and global markets. Key sectors, fintech, logistics, private healthcare, education, and digital services remain wide open. In this unsaturated market, early movers won't just compete, they'll define the industries of tomorrow. Venezuelans believe in democracy, in freedom, and in a new era of economic renewal, all built on a rule of law, protection of private property, a stable currency, and a welcoming framework for private investment. For global investors, the opportunity is clear. to be partners in this unparalleled opportunity market and to share in its growth. The moment is now. Venezuela is a nation to invest in, a market to build, a future to shape.
Okay, now it's my distinct privilege to introduce the woman at the forefront of this vision, a leader of courage, clarity, and deep commitment to Venezuela's future, María Corina Machado.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much. Well, thank you all for joining this very special conversation, and special thanks to the Council of the Americas, a key ally of the democracy in the Americas, and very especially in Venezuela. And of course, I am very grateful to its chairman, Andrés Plusky, its president, Susan Segal, and Guillermo Subillaga, true friends of our cause. Today, Venezuela stands on the brink of a historic transformation, offering the greatest opportunity for democracy, security, and investment in Latin America in decades. The impact of Venezuelan's liberation will reach across the entire hemisphere. While much has been said about the damage inflicted by 26 years of communist and criminal tyranny and the threats Maduro poses, little attention has been given to the immense wealth generation potential of a democratic Venezuela. And this opportunity extends beyond our borders. It reaches the entire hemisphere and investors who will benefit from unparalleled conditions starting on day one. And this potential isn't limited to oil and gas, though Venezuela boasts the world's largest oil reserves and the 8th largest natural gas reserves. And also we have abundant iron, gold, minerals, vast freshwater resources, 30 million hectares of fertile, undeveloped land, and 2.8 thousand kilometers of stunning Caribbean coastline. Beyond natural resources, Venezuela's strategic location, just days by sea from the US coast and year-round tropical climate, are significant advantages. Our existing infrastructure, a legacy of public investment before Chavez came to power, remains substantial despite years of neglect. Roads, services, ports, airports, and 16.9 gigawatts of electrical power capacity are still in place. We won't be starting from scratch. Moderate investments can quickly reactivate enormous productive capacity. These extraordinary conditions could have spurred monumental development under any reasonable government. Instead, Venezuela is mired in poverty and crime, ranking lowest globally on rule of law, carrying defaulted debt equivalent to 2.5 times its annual GDP, and experiencing severe economic paralysis. Only a rational, reliable development model rooted in a democratic and free Venezuela can unlock this unprecedented wealth creation. Beyond structural conditions, current incentives support a rapid, orderly, and irreversible transformation. First of all, our people. The failure of socialism is clear. My strong open market and privatization proposal garnered 93% of votes in the primary. Today, our united population fully supports comprehensive reforms, aligning with Western values of dignity, private property, freedom, and family. Secondly, our diaspora. Our greatest asset is our people, including 8 million Venezuelans abroad, ready to return, invest, and rebuild. We will harness their talent as well. Thirdly, what I call the paradox of technological backwardness. Years of neglect made Venezuela can directly adopt cutting-edge technologies, bypassing older, less efficient systems and accelerating development. Fourth, another paradox, this one of institutional destruction, because the collapse of inefficient and corrupt institutions can paradoxically clear the path for streamlining reforms and new investments by removing bureaucratic obstacles and resistance to change. And finally, nearshoring and global value chains. Venezuela's proximity to key markets, abundant resources, and competitive labor costs position it to attract foreign investment and integrate into regional supply chains, becoming a crucial link in the Americas' production and distribution networks. Conditions like these rarely converge all at once, offering us a chance to go from scorched earth to full growth. But most importantly, we have the plan and the teams ready. Our detailed plan covers the first 100 days, the first year, and beyond, with teams prepared to address urgent crises while initiating structural changes that will prioritize one, rule of law and institutional framework. We will establish rule of law and independent institutions guaranteeing property rights, contract enforcement, and legal certainty. Second, macroeconomic stability. Sound fiscal and monetary policies are paramount. We're committed to rebuild trust in our currency, reducing inflation and ensuring fiscal balance. Three, regulatory environment and business climate. We will create clear, stable, and transparent regulatory frameworks for thriving businesses. Our administration will be pro-business, pro-investment, and focused on creating value and jobs. Four, the role of the private sector. We are shifting from state control to a private sector-driven economy with public-private partnerships, privatizations, and open competition becoming the norm. And five, international financial institutions and partnerships. We value the technical and financial support of multilateral organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, and the IDB, as essential partners for financing, capacity building, sustainable reforms, and restoring credibility. This plan, leadership, and team will unlock an unprecedented economic opportunity of over $1.7 trillion over the next 15 years, transforming Venezuela from the criminal hub of the Americas into the energy hub of the Americas. With the world's largest proven oil reserves, vast natural gas fields, and major hydroelectric infrastructure, we will power our recovery and we will power the region. Our future is more than extraction. It's about transformation, integration, and global contribution. With the region's largest, cheapest, and cleanest energy supply, Venezuela will build a highly competitive technology hub for digital entrepreneurship, smart infrastructure, and scalable tech innovation. We have quantified this transformation across 12 highly competitive sectors, though many others also hold immense potential. Certainly, the benefits for Venezuela and the region will extend far beyond economic value. For instance, the destruction of education and health systems represent an opportunity to leapfrog into state-of-the-art, open and innovative social sectors with strong private sector participation. This is a data-driven program designed by technical experts and seasoned managers grounded in detailed sectoral intelligence on Venezuela's infrastructure, domestic market, and global competitiveness. Our team welcomes your suggestions, your proposals, and questions, as we already want to start building a strong alliance. Now, finally, I must address the point that triggers this entire process, which of course is Maduro's departure. Because I know that even though many share the certainty that Venezuela is an parallel business opportunity, some might be concerned about when Maduro will finally leave power. And on this point, I want to be very clear. The regime is more vulnerable than ever before. On July 28th, we defeated tyranny on its own terms. The regime has lost social control. In its latest electoral farce just weeks ago, 87% of Venezuelans refused to participate under coercion and openly disobeyed. Internationally, the regime has irreversibly lost all legitimacy. The United Nations and the Inter-American Commission classified its practices as state terrorism and crimes against humanity. Maduro's last resort is repression, but Operación Guacamaya in May dealt a stunning blow. In a daring, precise, peaceful, and flawless rescue, we extracted 5 key collaborators, Diosdado Cabello's most valuable hostages, from the heavily guarded Argentinian embassy in Caracas, exposing the regime's vulnerability. Repression lies on impunity and illicit funding. That's why the decision of the United States government to revoke all licenses is so significant. It sends an unequivocal message to those enabling Maduro that this system is collapsing and no one wants to go down with a sinking ship. Keep this in mind. Once Venezuela is free and democratic, we will be the United States' most strategic ally in that hemisphere. We know this, the US government knows it, and we are working together. Venezuelans are doing our part, and we are moving forward. We are ready to give everything it takes to rebuild our country, and we want you to be part of it. Venezuela will be free soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to turn it to Sary Levy, who's going to present the presentation in more detail. One second.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to the Council of the Americas, our dear organizers, and of course, all of you here and connected today. And well, after listening María Corina, I want to build on her previous remarks and go to move directly in what this occasion enables, which is a high impact investment opportunity over $1 trillion market for private investment. So under a democratic and market-driven model, Venezuela is set to a complete transition from collapse to boom. And that is based on a reform agenda focused on institutional transformation. We are talking about rule of law, judicial independence, control of corruption, a robust system of property rights, balance of powers, and of course, check and balance to create a good governance environment. Also, security of the people and of their asset, and of course, a complete defense of all our national territory. And last but not least, a development promotion to unleash, to relaunch our economy to levels that it never had had in the past. All these will be combined with untapped natural resource, a strategic location that, as we heard, is very important, favoring nearshoring and global contribution, a legacy infrastructure that with the right investment can be recovered very quickly, a deep cultural shift because our population is eager, really eager to live in a free market environment connected with all its migrants all around the world. And of course, the opportunity to leap forward, not only because the new development in technology, but because the same institutional destruction, it can be turned into a great opportunity. So this combination open the most positive synergies we can ever imagine. And for those prepared to move early, this is a path very clear and the potential is unmatched. We are talking today about a very huge investment opportunity, and we will have a closer look at it. So, but first, let me give you a little bit, to show you a little bit of our approach. We first identified those sectors with potential and constrained potential, either due to untapped natural resources, all the productive assets that are not completely used, and of course, unmet domestic demand. Then we evaluated all the reforms needed to open those sectors to the private sector, and also all those policies to make those productive activity highly competitive. Third, we identified the group of investment mechanisms that we think will be able to unleash the power of those areas. And finally, we identified all the potential market with conservative assumption. And this I want to insist. They were conservative assumption and sometimes also benchmarking with peer countries. And everything was projected in and validated with experts in each of those sectors. Here, I want to say, and I want to tell you that behind each of these sectors, there is a high-level professional team that really know the sector we are talking about, which is the current situation in Venezuela, what needs to be done, and how to do that. And what we did was to build our figures on their knowledge and expertise. And for these computations, I want to say there is a group of colleagues that we all together managed to bring today to you all these figures. So that way we identified 12 productive activities, which we organized in 3 clusters: energy intensive, capability builders, and diversified economy. From the beginning, we want to take advantage of our natural resources, enhancing human capabilities of our population, and of course, in a diversified and dynamic economy with a long-term perspective. With those supports, naturally, Venezuela has the opportunity to more than triple the size of its economy in 15 years. This is a very important endeavor. We are talking about a 10% per year of growth. Even highly demanding is completely achievable, given the positive externalities of the energy sector, particularly in oil and gas, and that combined create a huge potential of synergies. These 12 sectors present a new potential market value of $1.7 trillion, no, $1.7 trillion for private investment. And in addition of their economic value, they will accomplish Western strategic goals. Here in the slide, you can see that the energy intensive cluster exhibits a share of 40%. The rest of the 60% is divided in the other 2 clusters. Oil, which is the most well-known sector of Venezuela, is just 25% of this total share. So as you can see, Venezuela is much more than oil. For each of these productive activity, we calculated, and maybe, I don't know if you can see it from here, but the net present value in 15 years, the size of the market by year 2040, which is in 15 years, and the growth rate, the compound annual growth rate that each of those sectors will achieve. So let's begin with the oil sector, particularly in the energy cluster. So Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve in the world, yet its production declined from 3.5 to less than 1 million barrels per day. Given the predominance of state control, the lack of property rights, and of course, a very misty legal environment. Under democracy, we will advance a rigorous, orderly, transparent, and competitive process of privatization. A national agency will oversee the elimination of state participation quotas in oil and gas, opening all the fields to private investment, but also allowing private investors in upstream, midstream, and downstream operation. Oil and gas fiscal regime will be reformed to make it competitive. And of course, the legal framework will robustly guarantee property rights, repatriation, and revenue sharing. Just bringing the production to 3 million barrels per day by year 10 and 4.7 by year 15, we are talking about a market size of $420 billion, and with a growth rate during this period of 13%. But also we have gas. Venezuela has 40% of Latin America's proven free gas reserves. That's it, about 42 trillion cubic feet. And the associated gas with oil is almost 4 times larger than that. It's about 155 trillion cubic feet. So as you can see, the gas potential, the gas industry potential is huge, really significant, and also it will boost petrochemical industry. In this area, we will privatize, as we said, the PDVSA asset and equity joint venture in oil, in gas projects. We'll restructure the fiscal regime, not only to make it competitive but highly attractive to private investment, and will re-enter a robust and international enforceable investment protection mechanism. Here we foresee business in the co-extraction of gas with oil, also direct extraction of offshore natural gas, and naturally taking advantage of pre-existing underutilized infrastructure. Also, there is a huge high demand of household consumption and thermoelectric plants. So these are what areas for private investment too. And finally, the price regime, the change that we will have in the price regime will make very attractive the area to implement urban commercial gas distribution and also to attend export markets like the one in Colombia or Trinidad and Tobago. Another highly interesting area for investment is the ferrosteel industry. Before going into this, I want to insist that we are not including today nor refinery, not petrochemical industry, which are those highly important areas that complement oil and gas and make its possibilities to grow and creating aggregated value even much higher. So now, yes, we'll go into the ferrosteel industry, which it presents a very interesting combination of resource available. We are talking here about rich deposit of iron and bauxite hydropower supply, gas supply, mighty rivers, all in the same region, and a proven know-how in a strategic location. That allows that extraordinary combination allows steel to cost 50% less than the global average, but including the great potential to being the world's greenest steel. So this is a really a great opportunity that you may not find any place in the world. We also have, for aluminum, we have 6 million ton high quality bauxite to create 2 million aluminum tons, which almost 1 ton of extra possibility of expansion potential, just with the 2 smelting facilities, Venezuela and Alcázar, to be partially recovered. So in this sector even has the great possibility to boost complexity, economic complexity, because we can integrate the value chain from pellets through plates, slabs, and rods, and to produce even products with more aggregate value, and which also will give a great price stability to the sector. So the idea here is privatize again state-owned companies and opening mining concession to the private sector. The whole value chain, as we said, will be open to private investor from extraction to processing, and modern ESG standard will enable export that we can access easily to the European Union and the United States. And another area which is very important is really a must in any productive activity is when we speak about energy infrastructure, because it's the underlying net that is not for anything. But beside abundant resources, energy infrastructure nowadays is unreliable and underinvested. Current capacity is about 36 gigabytes, while the potential only in hydro energy is 64 gigabytes in Venezuela, enough to meet domestic demand, enabling export and supporting energy-intensive industries and services. Here we will privatize, but first we will break up and privatize the big corporate, and all the utilities will work and they will operate under an independent agency, and opening all the value chain for private investment and privatizing transmission lines and generation plants. We include a reform in tariffs, introducing targeted subsidies that will make very interesting to participate in this area. And also we will unleash innovation and off-grid to scale, including solar, wind, biomass, and other green energies. So diversifying the complete energy portfolio of the country. Also, this area will attract, given its possibilities, energy-intensive industries and services like data centers, crypto mining, and artificial intelligence. We will have another collateral positive externality investing in advanced technologies. So now let us talk a little bit of the second cluster. Here we highlight the relevance that enhance human capabilities like basic services and of course public goods. So let's begin with transport. In transport, we have to insist in the important legacy infrastructure Venezuela has that includes roads and paved highways, railroads, airport, ports, bus, and subways. So all that the infrastructure need an important maintenance, but with the right investment, it could be revamped to the levels we needed to impulse the economy. Here, I have to insist in all what is related to basic services. We will support ourselves, especially at the beginning, with the multilateral. We will ask for multilateral organization to help us financing it, because this will be enable another kind of private investment and also private participation. And here we will have a deep reform in public procurement laws, promotion of private investments through concessions, and all what is related to transparency law to make private investment really attractive. There are two sectors that are really, really important for us. And as Maria Corina said earlier, health and education are two elements crucial for a society. Without health, there is no further possibilities, and without education, there is no future. So these are sectors in which we will not only increase, but expand really our coverage and the quality of the services to be released. In the case of health, the health system has collapsed. 50% of operating rooms and 30% of beds are unavailable, with widespread equipment shortage, rising mortality, and also the resurgence of endemic disease. For that, our plan clearly will deregulate, allowing private investment in ownership and management of hospital and clinics, participation of the private sector, and stimulated it in pharma and medical supplies manufacturing, as well as tech-based health services. For education, this is a this is a system with a high collapse again, I don't know, the situation in education is so sad, with more than 50% student attendance and less than 20% of graduation. And of course, the learning that results from that is really poor. So here we will reform the organic law of regulation, including decentralization and accountability to improve the participation of the private sector. We will launch a national voucher system to fund private school assets, but also we will open concession model to manage and operate public schools, including, of course, the development of edtech solution from the private sectors. And here I will talk about the financial services. Well, actually, when we speak of the shrinking of Venezuela, we always say it has been more than 75%. But when you look at the financial services, it has been much worse, it's deeper. Because beside the situation of the economy, the reserved requirement, the negative real rates, and the fintech bans has made basically credit to disappear. So here we are talking not only that this sector will grow after the stabilization and growth of the economy, but also because we will eliminate this kind of constraint that has been imposed to the financial sector. We are very sure that there will be possibilities expanding credits, also in new instruments, new services, digital banking, and relaunch the equity debt markets, and of course, all what is related to private equity funds and mergers and acquisition opportunities. For this diversified third sector, third cluster economy, this is something that I like to insist very much. If we want to look at the future, we know the uncertainty always the future gives us. So we must have a flexible and adaptable environment that allows any activity to emerge. So this is, and that will give us a long-term stability. In this case, let me begin with real estate. This is a very, very depressed market nowadays because the lack of property rights, naturally punitive lease laws, and the hard currency transaction bans nowadays, and of course, mass immigration. But with a legal reform only, including a robust property rights system, this market will reboot. Imagine if you also reform the what it's called the status about lease and frauds and legalize foreign currency transaction, and of course, a nationwide process of property formalization. So here, this is a market that early commerce obviously will have a huge, huge profit. In technological and professional services, well, we know that when services shrank, in the extent the economy shrank. Within the case of Venezuela, was deepened by poor telecom access and brain drain. But combined with the diaspora, nowadays, a skilled, affordable labor pool will be ready to reactivate this sector. We plan to open internet service provider and telecom, building capital markets to support this area, and the educational trilingual program, which includes English, Spanish, and coding, will support also this sector. There are many, many different areas where professional service will evolve and emerge. And I'm sure among them, there will be digital professional services, remote outsourcing, and venture capital accelerators for startups. In the case of tourism, we can say that Venezuela is a sleeping tourist giant. Actually, we have a superb nature, including seacoast, isles, more than 300 of them, in Amazonian rainforest, plains, even dunes, high Andean mountains with different weathers and naturally with a huge ecological diversity. In this sector, our experts insist in that renovating and privatizing the hotels in the hand of the state, reopening skies, eliminating visa barrier, and building a strong country brand will impulse this sector with a very diversified perspective portfolio, including the traditional seashore, sea and sun tourism, professional, but also with small inns with adventure eco perspective, as well niche for eco research and also cultural tour experiences. And the last sector I'm going to talk to you about is the agricultural sector. We have 60% of primary production and 45% of agro-industrial now of agro-industry now idle. However, and we have also a huge gap export to hectare land. Only compared to our neighbor Colombia, nowadays we have $27 export per hectare, and Colombia has 263. What you have in the slide is just the evaluation of surpassing that gap. Here we will, in the reforms policies, we include a clarification of land titles, privatization of more than 250 state agribusiness, reactivation export corridors, and open all value chain naturally for private investment. Here we foresee the acquire and turn out of existing farm, building new capacity, supply imports area, and developing high value niche like coffee, cocoa, tropical fruit, some alcoholic beverage, and many others that will emerge, so on. So, this is something I want to insist because beside all the specific action in each sector, we will launch a transversal agenda for innovation, science, and technology to build a dynamic ecosystem promoting virtuous incentives to foster adoption of new technologies and accelerate progress. This will create a new relationship among the private sector, the public sector, and the academic and research institution that will promote a very dynamic, innovative environment that will lead the path for a brighter future to create in Venezuela what we call a technology hub. And well, at this moment, at this point, I just want to insist you that this is the sample of the depth of the Venezuelan market opportunity. We, under democracy, we have the people, we have the resources, we have the location, and will create a good governance to relaunch our economy with the potential of a first world. And this is a opportunity over $1.7 trillion. And this is something that we know that those who move early will take advantage of all the growth path. And this opportunity, let me say, is not yet financial, it's historic. It's the opportunity, and then I invite all the investors to be part of this historic transformation as builders of prosperity and progress in the Americas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guillermo, Susan, and Andres. This has been great. I am very grateful to every one of you who are present, who have joined us through Zoom. This is very exciting because, as I said, Venezuelan potential is huge. And we need to realize how all these interests are finally aligned in a win-win relationship for, first of all, the people of Venezuela, the democratic governments of the Western Hemisphere, and certainly for investors, current investors in Venezuela who have assets, and those that see the immense potential once we reach government. I think it's absolutely clear that as long as Maduro is in power, there's no way Venezuela can flourish. It is clear by now that Maduro is more than a conventional dictator. He's a head of a criminal structure. And those companies and businesses that today operate in Venezuela are forced to partner with a criminal structure and that operates without transparency and violating Venezuelan laws, without security, legal security, and certainly opportunities. So now what we are showing you is that the process of democratization of Venezuela and transition to democracy will not only mean solving a huge security threat for the Americas, but also the biggest economic opportunities in our region for decades to come. So as I said, this is a win-win situation. And I appreciate very much your question, Susan, regarding the people, because the people, the Venezuelan people, is in the center of everything we've done and the transformation we will achieve. And it is because we trust the Venezuelan people. I trust the Venezuelan people, is that where we are right now, at this brink of this historic transformation. And believe me, this has been much more than a political movement, social movement. It's a cultural movement. And I want to assure you that there's no other society in the world today that is as united as the Venezuelan people. We have no region, no religious or racial or economic or social differences. We are a society united around values, dignity, work, our family, private property. This is a society that has learned the really hard way what socialism and communism and crime means in terms of destruction. When I used to move around Venezuela and in our campaigns, people didn't ask for food or things, material things. They just asked for trust, dignity, and work. And that's what we will offer. And people have been in the center of this process of liberating Venezuela. And our people will be in the center of building our new nation. Will it be tough? Yes, it will be hard. It will be the biggest challenge, but with this will be a virtuous dynamic. And I tell you, there is huge creative energy accumulated in those that are here, and certainly in our extraordinary diaspora that has gone through very hard moments, but that has learned and created networks that are going to be truly valuable for Venezuelans construction. And believe me, I am much more optimistic in terms of the amount of the numbers of Venezuelans that will come back. That's what they tell me. We have a very particular diaspora. They are settled. They are grateful to many countries that have protected and received them, but they're willing, they're desperate to come back home to rebuild our country. And regarding education, Carlos, I want you to know that it is my main obsession and passion. And I know that we will see Nova schools flourishing in Venezuela soon, and that will be a great partnership. Finally, there were questions regarding the time frame and why we insist Maduro is in such a vulnerable position today. First of all, regarding the external dimension of this conflict, those that used to be Maduro's main allies aren't going through a good moment themselves. I'm talking about Syria, Russia, Iran. These are certainly moments in which these countries that used to support Maduro, used to finance Maduro, are not willing or daring to do it anymore. And in the case of China, we have to say that certainly China doesn't like to be robbed, doesn't like to be cheated. And that's precisely what the regime has done with them. So yes, they want to get their debt paid back, but certainly they're not risking in new investments in Venezuela as they are doing precisely in Guyana and other countries in the region. So they are not internationally supported right now. On the contrary, as I said before, the international community understands that Maduro is committed practicing of state terrorism and crimes against humanity. And beyond that, the United States government has been very clear in terms of what their main priorities in the Americas and the hemisphere are. And certainly Maduro represents a risk, a threat, a danger, not only for our closest neighbors, but also for United States. That's why we are working together in a well-thought strategy that pressure so that Maduro and those who still, very few who support them, and the top brass military and some financial enablers understand that this is not sustainable. It's not sustainable from a financial perspective. It's not sustainable from a social perspective. And it's not sustainable from a military perspective as well. And certainly within the armed forces, there are growing tensions because, as I said before, once they realize the regime has its days counted, no one wants to sink. No one wants to go down with a sinking ship. And that's precisely what's happening right now. What's got Maduro left? Repression, as I said, and illicit money for financing this repression. That's why the decision by President Trump's decision to revoke the licenses has created these tensions within the regime. And the next steps that should be taken is to enforce these sanctions and at the same time close the flows that come from other illicit activities such as drug trafficking, gold smuggling, and so on. Our message to the oil companies is we want you here, certainly. We want you here not producing crumbs of a couple 100,000 barrels a day. We want you here producing millions of barrels a day and empowering, all these other sectors that we presented, because we want Venezuela, as I said, not only to export energy, but to consume and to add value in many other sectors in which we are super competitive. Finally, I will say that I trust our people. That's why we're here. We absolutely conscious of the challenges we face. And we are committed to make it happen. We see all vectors aligning finally. Our creditors, they realize they will never get paid under the Maduro. We will. We will pay through a well-thought, transparent restructuring process so that Venezuela can re-enter international finances, companies in the oil sector and others. You know that this is an untapped potential that is unmatched by any other country. We will turn Venezuela in the energy hub of the Americas and a trusted supplier, reliable supplier of energy for the Western Hemisphere. And certainly we will be willing and happy to receive investors not only from the United States, but Europe, Asia, and elsewhere, and Latin America, certainly. And finally, I have to say, our people, we've learned, we have gone through very hard and tough moments in which our families have been separated and loved ones have been disappeared. We are another society. We value freedom, we value dignity, we value justice as no other generation before. We're willing to do our job, to do what it takes to turn Venezuela into a land of grace, and we want to do it with you. This is the moment to act. We will turn Venezuela into this wonderful nation in which we can bring our kids back home and at the same time have the greatest opportunity for wealth creation in a region for decades to come. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, María Corina. I want to thank you and your team for your trust in launching this really important proposal and project here at the Council of the Americas. I want to thank the members of the press who covered this event. I want to thank our corporate members, our board members who were here, our chairman, our president, CEO, for their time and for being here. And I want to congratulate Carlos Rodriguez Pastor and María Corina for their gold insignia. Once again, congratulations. And we will send you a link with the video. And please, for those journalists who are going to have meetings, you can see Claudia, who's here to coordinate those. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.